I think the big failure is most of a lot of the tools are either geared towards the upfront ideation and vetting process or the execution end of the spectrum, the actual point at which you've already decided like it's going to be worked on, and now it's time to start creating requirements around this initiative, and then tracking the actual build process all the way through to testing, completion, release, delivery. Those are two different parts, and I get why there's a disconnect there. They're different. They're very different types of iterative processes, and they have a different level of granularity. So I've found that that's where I wish someone would come out with a solution that was around, okay, everything from an idea and having a fairly lean but well-documented vetting process where you can like check off a few things that you've done for stage like 1, and then have, okay, it's gotten past that. Have you done the next level of activities? Stage 2, down to, okay, stage 3, on the next level of activities, to the point that, okay, wow, all right, so now that you've gotten past, stages 1 through 3 of the vetting process, the next level would be like, it's on the roadmap. Okay, and you then move that idea out of vetting over to the roadmap and where it belongs, and now it's, I don't know, the new number 4 idea gets slotted in. That's great. And then that's where, like, I've noticed, like, a lot of product management specific products will kind of end, and then they pseudo integrate with other products that are more about the execution part of the function. But what I would love to see is that idea then being able to go to the next level of execution, being broken down into the right level of granularity of stories, if you will, or scenarios, whatever you want to call them, and then have associated with that all of the right deliverables and content in the form of requirements, wireframes, or any other relevant documentation to assist in the execution function for engineering, QA, training, whoever else needs to consume documentation that defines what the solution and how it should behave. That it's just there's definitely a gap there. The way I often handle that upfront process too is, to some extent, as I go through the stages in my mind, right? And it's not always that formal of having stage 1, 2, and 3. It's a little less formal than that, but I love a system that can kind of allow you to set up as many stages as you want with a couple of key tasks to do. The level of granularity in breaking down that big, huge idea that sounds super cool needs to get a little more granular with each stage. And I like this notion of like a hierarchical set of objects where you have your top level object that is a really high level goal of, solve for, field service automation tools, right? Should we do that? Should we get into that? That's something we should consider. Then you'd have items underneath that break that down into subcomponents of what that means. And then items even underneath those that break that down into what it needs. Because the further you get in the funnel, the more detail you're going to need to actually truly vet that you understand the problem space enough to know that it truly has enough value to ultimately belong on your roadmap. So I also love that model of having the ability to get into more detail in a organized way and multiple levels of that detail. So someone could always consume and say, oh, okay, I get what this means. I don't need to look at the sub detail. I don't get what this means, and I can, and just drill in and look at like sub descriptions for what that means. And then all of those individual chunks should then easily translate, be able to turn into like executable stories once you put requirements, software system requirements and wireframes around them and attach that content. And that's another area where there's a gap. Usually what I see happen is, okay, we've got all this content here in this system, and then I just write up completely separate stories over here that have very limited relationship to the original ideas that are over here, to know that you have thoroughly defined all the requirements necessary for execution, because you don't have that link to know, have I written up all the requirements for this business need, and this one, and this one, and this one. I love to see that thorough connection from business needs, sub-business idea to requirements.